Operating a commercial aircraft across international borders requires absolute, non-subjective standardization. Every procedure, every threshold, and every qualification must be identical worldwide. These global standards originated at the Chicago Convention of 1944, where delegates from across the world met to ensure that civil aviation would operate under a single, uniform framework. The output of this convention was ICAO Annex 1, the document that established the global requirements for personnel licensing. Within India, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation enforces these international standards through the Aircraft Rules of 1937. Legally, a pilot's license is not a single document, but a system of 3 interdependent layers: base license, operational ratings, and a medical certificate. These act as a fail-safe circuit. If any single component expires, the legal authority to fly is instantly nullified. Preparing for DGCA examinations requires more than rote memorization. It demands an understanding of how these regulatory layers overlap to authorize a single flight. This ladder diagram represents the base license layer. This is the structural foundation of a pilot's legal privileges, determined by age and accumulated flight hours. The first tier is the student pilot license. It requires a minimum age of 16 and permits solo flights strictly under instructor supervision. The second tier is the private pilot license, requiring a minimum age of 17 and at least 40 hours of flight time. The PPL carries a limitation. It prohibits the pilot from carrying passengers for remuneration or hire. To fly commercially, a pilot must reach the third tier, the commercial pilot license, requiring a minimum age of 18 and 200 accumulated flight hours. The CPL allows a pilot to act as pilot in command for single-pilot commercial flights, or as a co-pilot on multi-crew aircraft. The apex tier is the Airline Transport Pilot License, demanding a minimum age of 21 and 1,500 hours of flight time. The ATPL is the global standard required to legally serve as pilot in command of multi-crew commercial air transport aircraft. While the base license dictates a pilot's rank, it is highly restrictive regarding the environments and specific aircraft they can legally operate. A bare CPL only authorizes basic visual flights in generic aircraft. Operating in complex airspace requires specific operational modifiers, known as ratings. One such modifier is the instrument rating. Flying through clouds or in zero visibility conditions is illegal without this specific certification on the license. The instrument rating requires continuous currency. It is only valid for 12 months and requires a biennial proficiency check to remain active. Next are type ratings. A pilot cannot legally operate any heavy aircraft. Their license must specify the exact make and model of the aircraft. Operating a Boeing narrowbody, for instance, requires a dedicated type rating acquired through intensive aircraft-specific simulator training. These certifications are not interchangeable. The Boeing rating does not authorize a pilot to operate an Airbus A320. Pilots who wish to teach must acquire further specialized modifiers, such as the flight instructor rating. Operating without the correct, unexpired rating is a violation of international law, regardless of the pilot's total flight time. The final layer is physiological currency. Under DGCA Rules 38 and 39B, operating without a valid medical assessment immediately suspends all legal privileges. The Class 2 medical is required for SPL and PPL holders, providing a validity window of 24 months. The Class 1 medical is the mandatory standard for all CPL and ATPL commercial operations. For commercial pilots under the age of 40, a Class 1 medical assessment is valid for 12 months. Once a commercial pilot reaches age 40, the risk profile shifts. For single-pilot operations, the validity window drops to 6 months. However, in multi-pilot operations, this window remains 12 months, as the redundancy of a second pilot mitigates the physiological risk. DTCA medical validity is a mathematical map of human physical decline, offset by the safety net of having a second pilot on the flight deck. Consider a passenger flight operating under instrument flight rules, preparing for pushback in heavy rain. The captain is 62, and the first officer is 58. We must determine if this dispatch is legal under Annex 1 standards. First, the base layer. Both pilots possess the required ATPL for multi-crew aircraft. Second, the modifiers. Both hold valid type ratings and unexpired instrument ratings. Third, the physiological layer. Both Class 1 medicals are within their 12-month validity window. The final check is the ICAO age 60-65 rule. A pilot in command can serve up to age 65, provided that the co-pilot is under age 60. Because the first officer is 58, this physiological redundancy threshold is met. The flight is legally cleared for dispatch. Passing DGCA air regulations requires an understanding of this regulatory interdependence. The base license, ratings, and medical currency must all be valid simultaneously to maintain safety standards in the global airspace.